The social disorganization theory started with two men, Clifford Shaw and Henry Mackay. Shaw had been delivering magnificent contextual investigations on the individual, like small scale level for a considerable length of time, before he took on hypothesizing on large scale basic degree of crime percentages. Be that as it may, when he started working with Mackay, he concocted maybe the most exact models why certain neighborhoods have more social issues. For example, misconduct and higher crime percentages than others. In the social disruption model, Shaw and Mackay proposed an edge work that started with the presumption that specific neighborhoods and little urban communities have more wrongdoing than different pieces of the city, the dominant part situated in Zone 2, a zone changed from private to mechanical. Presently, as indicated by Shaw and Mackay, the areas that have the most elevated paces of wrongdoing regularly have, in any event, three normal issues, which are physical decrepitude, neediness, and heterogeneity, or high social blend. Shaw and Mackay additionally noted other regular characteristics. For example, individuals continually moving all through the region, just as high joblessness rates among the occupants in the area. Other social ills are precursor factors. The predecessor social ills will in general lead to a breakdown in social association, therefore prompting social disruption explicitly. It is anticipated that the forerunner components of neediness, heterogeneity, and physical feebleness will prompt a condition of social disorder, which will prompt wrongdoing and misconduct. This implies the occupants of the neighborhood that fit the profile of having a horror rate socially makes inhabitants in a dilapidated region can't meet up to take care of issues. For example, wrongdoing among the young. Presently, one of the most noteworthy commitments of Sean McKay's model was the significance and reassurance of an assortment of social ills. For example, the situation, infection, low birth weight, or different issues will in general cover with higher delinquency rates. Despite what social issue is estimated, higher paces of social issues are quite often grouped in the zone on the move, otherwise called Zone 2. It was around there that Shaw and McKay accepted there was a breakdown in casual social controls and that kids started to take in culpable standards from their communications with peers in the city through what they call play exercises. Along these lines, the breakdown in the states of the local prompts social disorder, which thus prompts deadbeat crimes from more seasoned youth in the area. At last, the disappointment of the local inhabitants to sort out themselves permit the more established youth to administer the conduct of the little youngsters. Presently, the more seasoned youth in the region give an arrangement association where the area cannot in this way. More youthful kids tell them rather of having no gatekeeper. Shaw and McKay gave information to demonstrate this hypothesis. Explicitly, they showed through information from the US Census and city records that areas with high paces of neediness, physical flimness, and a high social blend, likewise at the most noteworthy pace of wrongdoing. Moreover, the high paces of wrongdoing and other social issues were reliable with Bergey's system of concentric circles, and that the most noteworthy rates were watched for the regions in Zone 2, the zone on the move. Presently, anyway, there was a special case. The Gold Coast region, along the northern shoreline of Lake Michigan, was missing from the high paces of social issues, especially wrongdoing that existed all through a generally reliable model of concentric circles and neighborhood zones. This demonstrates the hypothesis that high misconduct rates were clear in the zone of the city, where processing plants were attacking the private local. Besides, Shaw and McKay's information demonstrated that it didn't make a difference which ethnic group lived in the zone, experiencing significant change, since all gatherings with the exceptions of Asians who lived in that zone had high wrongdoing rates while they lived there. Presently, then again, when the vast majority of every ethnic gathering moved out of Zone 2, their misconduct rates diminished essentially. This discovery rejects the idea of social Darwinism, since clearly the way of life is not what impacts wrongdoing and misconduct, but instead the criminogenic idea of the earth. All things considered, if ethnicity or race had any kind of effect, the wrongdoing rates in Zone 2 would vary depending on who lived in the zone. At that point yet, these rates didn't change. At this zone decides the pace of wrongdoing, paying little mind to what ethnic or racial gatherings were living there at that point. Presently, in the course of recent decades, Chicago's school system has encountered a gigantic measure of consideration from analysts. For all intents and purposes, all the exploration has upheld Sean McKay's form of social disruption, and the subsequent horror rates in the neighborhoods that show such denied conditions. Currently, examination has bolstered the hypothetical model proposed by Sean McKay explicitly as far as the horror rates in complicated neighborhoods. Likewise, it is very obvious that each city that one can pass through on a raised roadway, for example Virginia, Baltimore, or Los Angeles, bolsters Sean McKay's proverb of wrongdoing in concentric circles. Explicitly, one can see, while crashing into particularly all the urban communities, the example of run-down structures encompasses the downtown zone, which is the zone of change. Continuing and following this layer of weather-beaten structures, one experiences a layer of houses and local locations that appear to increment in quality as the driver draws nearer to or significantly farther from the downtown territory. Presently, anyway, pundits have raised some substantial concerns with respect to the first model. Explicitly, it has been contended that Shaw and McKay's unique examination didn't really gauge their essential develop, which was social complication. In spite of the fact that this analysis was exact in getting out Shaw and McKay's on not estimating their essential interceding variable, late exploration has indicated that the model is substantial in any event. When proportions of social complication are remembered for the model, such proportions of social confusion incorporate just soliciting individuals from the local, what number of neighbors they know by name, or how regularly they watch solo companion bunches in the region. Extra analysis of Shaw and McKay's detailing of social disruption additionally centers around the accentuation hypothesis places on the large scale or total degree of investigation. All things considered, while the hypothesis works superbly foreseeing which neighborhoods will have higher crime percentages than others, the model won't endeavor to clarify why most youth in the most notably terrible zones don't become guilty parties. Moreover, their model doesn't endeavor to clarify why somewhere in the range of modest quantity of utilization in the best neighborhoods in Zone 5 decide to perpetrate, notwithstanding the past contextual investigations, finished and distributed by Clifford Shaw, endeavor to address the individual or smaller level culpable. Likewise, there was one prominent exception to Sean McKay's recommendation that all ethnic racial gatherings could have high paces of wrongdoing and crime percentages while they lived in Zone 2. Presently, proof shows that when Japanese inhabitants made up a huge segment of occupants in this zone, experiencing significant change, that they had a low pace of wrongdoing. Consequently, as in the most hypothetical models in the sociology, there's a special case to the standard. Presently, maybe the greatest analysis which still cannot seem to be appropriately addressed, manage to disregard and focusing on the most dangerous wellspring of guiltiness on Zone 2, the momentary zone, which is the areas. Presently, the discoveries appear to point without a doubt to the intrusion of industrial facilities and organizations into local locations as an issue. Yet the analyst did not concentrate on easing back such attacks as a proposal. This is likely because of the political and monetary concerns, being that the property owners of the organizations and processing plants were financing their examination and decided their essential appropriate usage. Besides, this disregard is spoken to by the inability to clarify the special case of the Golden Coast in their outcome and ends. Notwithstanding the analysis and shortcomings of the Chicago School point of view on criminology, coordinated by Sean McKay, this hypothesis brought about perhaps the biggest program to date, endeavoring to lessen misconduct rates in these areas. Clifford Shaw was placed accountable for building up the Chicago Area Project, which built up focuses in the most wrongdoing established neighborhoods. These focuses tend to make exercises for youth trying to lead them to a daily existence liberated from wrongdoing and build up safe and wrongdoing free neighborhoods.